Hello and welcome to the Unique CPA with your host, Terrell Turner. Our commitment is to our thriving community of accounting professionals who are physically and mentally healthy, fulfilled, and energized by their work, with the ultimate goal of elevating the reputation of the best profession in the world. The Unique CPA is brought to you by randycrabtree.com. Log on to learn more.
Additional support is also provided by Magnetic. AI-prepared 1040s with remarkable accuracy and form coverage, so your team gets complete returns ready for final review. Check it out at magnetictax.com.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Unique CPA podcast. Today, I have a great guest on. We are talking to Scott Showalter. He is the director of the Masters of Accounting program and a professor of the practice in accounting at North Carolina State University. Scott, welcome to the show. How are you?
Great. Glad to be with you today. It's an exciting time, both within the profession and as well as in academia. So I'm glad to talk with you today.
Absolutely. So, Scott, I was very interested in a conversation with you. One is for the audience, like Scott and I have met, and we've talked several times before. And one of the things that I've been impressed by is that you have both a background in the field of accounting and in academia. So for those who haven't met you before, can you give us a little bit of context on your background?
Oh, yeah, be glad to. Yeah, matter of fact, this year is a little over 50 years that I've been in the profession. I started my first 33 years with one of the big four firms, KPMG. I was a partner for the last 22 years of that. I joined NC State in 2008 as a professor of practice, as you say, and in 2018, I became the director of the Masters of Accounting program. So I've been very fortunate to actually have two very full careers in different areas to be able to do that. And quote, in my spare time, I'm very much involved in the profession outside of even my academia. I was the chair of the North Carolina Association of CPAs, just finished last year, a 3-year stint on the ASCP Board of Directors, before that, the ASCP Council. And this month, I'm moving on to the ASCP Auditing Standards Board. So I got to stay busy, right? And there's a lot of things going on.
So I'm very curious for you. Like, you said, you spent 22 years in practice and up to the partner level. How was that transition for you going from partner into academia?
Yeah, I get that question a lot. Matter of fact, how did it work for you? And I've actually written an academic article called Nuts and Bolts where I kind of lay that out because I get a lot of questions on that. But what I really liked about the time I spent in the accounting profession was the ability to be able to mentor professionals, to help them get the most out of their career. I viewed as a partner, my responsibility was to leave the firm better off than I came, right? And so I was making sure it was in better hands when I left than I was there. So I really enjoyed that mentoring relationship that I developed with a lot of professionals. So I saw higher education as this another opportunity to continue doing that, okay? So now instead of talking to professionals, I'm talking to students. So I have a lot of dialogues, obviously teaching in the classroom, but I think where a lot of the learning takes place is in my office here, or just talking anywhere where students come in and they have really interesting, about lots more informed questions than I ever had when I was thinking about it. And they want to know what this profession's all about. And they really want to know what the opportunities are. So I really enjoy the opportunity to continue to mentor students. So that's the common link that I really feel like I'm still doing a lot of what I used to do. I'm just doing it to a different audience than I did.
I think that brings up an interesting point because I think back to almost 19 years ago when I graduated from undergrad. To be honest, I really didn't have a clear picture of like what accounting was about. So I'm curious, like when the students do come to you, like do they have some concept or some assumptions of what they think the accounting profession is about?
Yes, definitely. They're very opinionated about that. And one of the things that's really different over that period of time that you just talked about, and definitely over my period of time, what's really changed that landscape is the fact that the firms have gone to basically using internships as their primary vehicle to hire students. Back when I came out, internships were very rare. Okay. And probably in your time, they were probably beginning to come up, still pretty common. So a lot of students have had 1, 2, 3 internships with 3 different firms. Okay. That's good. That could be bad. Okay. Depends on how that internship experience was. Okay. And so they have a lot of questions. So they've lived a world of an internship, but you and I both know the internships experience is more about recruiting than it is about working. Okay. And so they saw the really good side, which is good. And I'm always positive about that, but they still have some questions because they talk to professionals. And one of the questions you're going to get to me later is about what can the profession do? And so they've had some conversations with professionals that showed a different light on the profession, and they want to better understand what those are. So yeah, I just think that they've just had so much experience. Obviously, social media comes up. The firms are very active in social media, promoting LinkedIn, which is something we encourage our students to do. They see the firms. Students are members of the North Carolina Association that connect. They see the dialogue. So the profession is just so much more out there than it was. It's lots more opportunities to see, I would say, the good and the bad.
Yeah.
Okay. They get to see it all. And helping them make sense out of that is where I think I can help.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense because I think back to, my, like you say, exposure to the accounting profession was we had a partner from a South Carolina-based accounting firm that came into my audit class 1 year, and they spoke, and that was about the extent of my exposure to like what it would be like to work as an accountant, to where I could imagine like students have so much more information, as you said, like they got social media, they're doing multiple internships. I could imagine that. Does it seem overwhelming for some of them to like take all this information, plus now they have AI they can go ask? Like there's so many places, but like how do they really sort it out?
Yeah, absolutely. There are times when they come in my office, I can just tell they've been overloaded. they don't know exactly what they don't know. So they're not quite sure how to deal with it. And so actually one of the things that we actually encourage, we have dedicated career services for our students, helping them through dedicated for the MAC program. And one of the things that we tell them is, don't talk to every firm. Let's have a conversation about what is it you want to have in your career? And let's point you towards those type of firms, which we believe will meet the type of objectives you're in, because you will absolutely get confused if you go out and talk to too many firms. So the one way to do is just kind of reach out. We want to talk more than one firm or 2 firms. You want to have a good 5, 6, 7 firms you're talking to. But the old days where let's see how many firms I can tick off that I can get offers from. That really gets confusing to them to be able to do that. So, and a lot of times they have a problem what they see in social media, or maybe what their buddy told them, trying to reconcile that with the firm. So I often get, I talked to so-and-so who did an internship and this was their experience, but that's not what the firms tell me. How do I reconcile these two views? And so I can play a role in that as well.
Now, I guess over your years of being involved with the accounting industry, I'm very curious what you think about this hypothesis. I've heard some people say, let's say 20 plus years ago, a lot of the firms had a very similar DNA to whereas now you're starting to see some more clear distinctions between, the experience you're going to get at this firm versus that firm and how this firm wants to approach what they do in the accounting profession. Mm-hmm. Now, from your perspective, do you agree, disagree, or do you see something different?
Yeah, I'm going to agree and disagree with you. How's that? Okay, so I agree that in today's world, the firms have got more specialized. At NC State, we have 35 different organizations that come in and recruit our students. And people say, why do you do that? Because people have different needs and wants and objectives, okay? There's a real big difference on one end from the largest firms all the way to, I'd say, the mid-sized firms, all the way down to the relatively small firms. So, and we have some students, particularly if they want to stay in certain geographical areas, that the options there are going to be mid-sized to small type firms, okay? And so the firms have been able to become very profitable and successful in their niches. It could be niches geographically. It could be niches to industries they serve. It could be niches related to the services that we provide. Okay, so the answer to that is yes. I think, and to some extent, that confuses the students because because they don't understand those distinguishes. But having said that, this is where I disagree. When the firms come in campus and start recruiting, They all look the same.
Yeah.
So when they come in, I sit through these recruiting speeches and I'm going, yeah, that sounds like that firm. That sounds like that firm. That sounds like that firm. And so they've all got the same pitch. Okay. So what I often tell the firms is you got to change your pitch. Okay. You need to make sure your uniqueness, why students want to choose you, comes out. And it can't be that tearing down another firm. Okay. Students don't like that. Students don't like when you come in and say, don't go to that firm or don't go to that size firm. You need to take what your unique experience is, and you need to sell it. Okay. And you have a very, very good value proposition. The students just need to hear it.
Yeah.
And they get confused because I can say they all sound alike when they come on campus, but I know they're different. And that's what we try to tease out.
Yeah. I'm wondering if, is that a factor of just accountants typically aren't the best at marketing and branding what we do?
Yeah. We didn't go into marketing for a reason, right? Okay. So yeah, that's not a core strength that we have, but we just need to tell our story.
Yeah.
Okay. It's pretty simple. Well, one thing we are good at is telling stories. I don't mean stories being fabricated. I mean, our whole profession is about looking at information and seeing insights and be able to share those insights with people that maybe that don't see the same insights that we can see. So that's what we do for a living. So we just need to make sure we share those insights when we come on campus and we're talking about, because we have them. We all have them. We have those experiences that are very rewarding, and we just need to make sure we share those when we talk to the students.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense to me. So I want to ask a little bit more specific about the NC State program, because for people like me or other accountants or ones at larger firms, a lot of the headlines that we see are about the talent pipeline issues. Like there aren't that many people going into accounting and, they're choosing other paths or other fields. So what does that look like for someone who lives in that world of like you're seeing the students as they're making those decisions about what career path, like you actually know the number of students that are in your accounting program, like you've seen the numbers over the years. Mm-hmm. What does the pipeline look like, or what is the state of the pipeline from your perspective?
Yeah, I think you asked about 6 questions in there, but so there's been a lot said about the pipeline. Mm-hmm. Okay. I would say some of it's true and some of it's probably more myth than that perspective. From an NC State perspective, our numbers have never gone down. And I think that what attributes to that is the fact that I like to say we made the pond bigger that we were fishing from. Okay. 2 issues there. One is there's just a natural decrease because of decreased birth rates of people coming in available to higher education. So the population is growing smaller, whether we like it or not. I mean, because people have the baby today, they're not going to be here for 18 years. So we already know the population is coming right now because we know what the birth rates are. Okay. So that is getting smaller. Okay. The other thing that's going on in this particular period that's on a negative is actually starting salaries, which is one of my soapboxes I get on from time to time. And that is the profession went for about a 10-year period of time where starting salaries didn't change a lot. Okay. They really didn't change a lot during that period of time. And they stayed in the mid-50s. And then the profession was shocked that students made very informed decisions about going to other professions because they increased their salaries. Okay. But to some extent, the firms have increased their salaries. Now it's not where they need to be, but definitely have made. And nationally last year, just to give you an indication, the applications for graduate schools, which what I'm in, was up 72%.
Wow.
Now, I won't attribute all that to starting salaries. The great thing about the accounting profession is there's always jobs. Okay. Yeah. And historically, they've always paid well. And subject to the starting salary issue that just mentioned too. And the accounting profession isn't recession proof, but it is recession resilient, because even when the business is down, someone still needs to analyze the information to help make informed decisions. So while the growth may not be there as much, the layoffs and reductions aren't as pronounced as they are in other professions. So it's not surprising that our numbers are up from that. But we have about 40% of the people in our program, I say we made the pond bigger, actually their undergraduate degree is not in accounting.
Okay.
Okay. So as we like to say, people wised up. Okay. They graduated an undergraduate degree in one skill, and then they went out there and they said, I just really want that to be. That's not as rewarding, or I don't see a career path or whatever else. And so we designed our program. We have a prereq program, online asynchronous program that allows people that got an undergraduate degree in not accounting to actually make a transformation to be able to come in and be successful in our program at the graduate level. So I attribute a lot of our ability to maintain our numbers to that. Mm-hmm. And it really helps the diversity of our program. The fact that we have all these different backgrounds in our programs. We had an individual that owned a bridal boutique in Charlotte.
Oh, wow.
And so she came across, okay? We had one of our top graduates last year actually spent 14 years in New York. He was a makeup artist on Broadway, okay? And when I asked him, okay, I don't get it. Broadway to accounting, what he said was stability. His answer was, I need a stability. I got a family, Broadway, makeup artist, not stable. Okay.
Gotcha.
And he was very good. So we have a variety of those stories. It's very unique. And that diversity is very unique in the classroom. And the firms actually like seeing that diversity come out. We weren't sure how the firms would respond to someone not having an undergraduate degree in accounting, and some of them not in business. You know, the two I just gave you are not necessarily in business, but they responded very positive to that unique blend of student that we provide for them.
Awesome. You know, I love the fact that you guys are doing that, because since I've started my own firm, met so many people who have eventually started their own small accounting firm that didn't have an accounting background, but very similar to what you described is like at a certain point in life, they looked at their options and said, hey, that looks like a more attractive or a more stable or a better path for me and my family. And so they made that transition like after having a career in something completely different. So I love the fact that you guys do that. Now, you mentioned about that transition period. So that online kind of resource, is that like a course that they go through, or is it kind of material that they review to kind of prepare them for a master's in accounting?
It is a non-credit course, is a way to think about it. Okay. So they don't get college credit for it, but they don't pay a college price for it either. Okay. So what it does is, because actually some students, depending on where they went, even though they may not have an undergraduate in accounting, they may have taken the principles of accounting. Okay. The principles of accounting is a core course that a lot of majors have. People, again, back to your point, if you're going to do anything, you need to understand accounting. Okay. It's one of these basically life skills that you should have. Okay. And so they'll have some of it, but they won't have everything. They won't have intermediate accounting. Maybe they didn't have a tax class, or maybe they didn't have the ethics class they need, or whatever else. And so we have a series of little modules that they take that's all online, asynchronous, that they can take at their own pace. Like I said, it allows them the only requirement we have is that you need to complete this prerequisite class before you take the graduate class. So a lot of we have both an online and an on-campus program, and a lot of our online students are part-time. They're still working. And so what they do is instead of completing the degree over 1 year, they complete it over 2 years. You know, they take less classes. And so they're able to fit these classes in before they take the graduate, like just in time. We teach the tax class in the fall. So right in July or August, they'll be taking the tax prep. And so they move from that directly into the advanced tax class. And we've been very successful at that. Okay. We've also, particularly for our students that don't have a business background, as I mentioned, I talked about a makeup artist. We had an individual 2 years ago who had a PhD in violin. Wow. Okay, I can't make this up. Okay, and several years ago we had an animal science major, and so they don't necessarily have the business acumen. So we have a particular course that helps them even with the business acumen. Okay, what do we mean by financial statements? What do we mean by an asset? What do we mean? So we have to not assume they understand some of the language that you and I very much treat every day as a common occurrence. We have to bridge that gap as well.
You know, I think that is really cool that you guys have that, because even as you were talking, one of the things that came to mind is like, I know several accounting firms that are hiring people who don't have an accounting background. I'm like, maybe I should recommend that they send their staff through that program, you know, maybe it'll help them actually become a better accountant at that firm.
Yeah, we asked them at the end, and they're very positive, and we keep the courses up to date. Matter of fact, I was just talking to the tax professor earlier this week because of what, the great big beautiful tax bill and everything. We're trying to figure out how we got to update that course to make sure it's where it needs to be. So the classes are kept very current with what's going on and help the students, and they can digest it in their own time, which is a very important item.
Now, is that course something that people could take even if they weren't going into the master's program? Like they just wanted to get, hey, I want to get a refresher on these things. Is it available for the public to take some of those courses?
Interesting question. We've never done that before. We've actually made it available to other colleges and universities where they didn't have the resources to invest in it like we did to be able to build it. And so we have some colleges actually, we allow their students to actually take the classes. But we have to think about that. We hadn't really thought about allowing people that aren't it's mainly considered a feeder, a prep into our program.
Okay. So before we wrap up, one of the conversations that I think is happening a lot for firm owners, for people working in corporations, people working in public accounting is about how AI is potentially going to impact the accounting profession. So I'm curious from your perspective in academics, like what type of conversations are being had at the academic level about, hey, AI, and we're trying to prepare these students for the future. And I mean, AI may be changing some of the ways that we do it. So what do those conversations kind of look like at the academic level?
I would say at the academic level, AI is dominating the conversation, no different than it is in the business world, right? I mean, it's hard to have any conversation in the business world that AI doesn't come up within at least 1 minute of the conversation, okay? So AI is very similar from that perspective. I mentioned I've been in this profession for over 50 years, and technology has been evolving the entire 50 years, okay? As I look over that, is constantly changing, but this is different. This is different. And I mean different in a positive way when I say that. And the two things I see is different than what I observed over the last 50 years of living through the technology changes in the profession is one is the speed of the change. This is definitely moving lots quicker. We had more time in the past to absorb the technology and figure it out. Now, by the time we figure it out, they've already moved. Okay, I came here and out doing there. Okay, so one of the challenges is the speed of the change. Definitely is a challenge for us, particularly when you think about how fast academia moves. Okay, the second is actually how technology is used and what it can do. In the past, we used technology for we used the technology to pave the cow path. We took technology to do what we always did, but we didn't pick another cow path. We didn't build another cow path. We just took the one we had and we paved it. Okay, what the emerging technology is allowing us to totally change how we do it, but what we're doing. We can actually do different things. And let me give you an analogy to this so it kind of brings it to truth for your audience is that a lot, particularly the larger firms now, have moved to using technology, data analytics, AI, to move to examining, in an audit sense, 100% of the transactions instead of doing a sample. They're actually moving away from sampling. And so I think that's a positive thing. It's a positive thing, what I would say, audit quality. I think audit quality is going to get better, but it also makes the experience for the professional, I think, lots more rewarding because now using the technology is giving the professional those transactions that maybe don't look right. They're not saying they're wrong, but they're not saying that they may not look right. And so the professional is using their critical thinking, professional judgment skills to analyze those, which has to be lots more interesting than when we had a sample of which 99% of the sample, nothing was wrong with it. So we spent all of our day getting bored looking at transactions where nothing was wrong. Now we get to spend our day analyzing things, and that's got to be a lot more interesting. So how do we take that now? I'm going to get to you answer your question and move that into the classroom, okay? But it's important to understand how that is changing. And the same thing you can say on tax. I mean, a variety. It's just not audit. I use that example. So what we got to do is make sure what happens in the classroom reflects what I just described to you. Okay, that experience. Okay, and so, but when I talk to professionals, and we talk a lot, one of the things that we're constantly talking to professionals about what they're doing, so we can make sure we're making those adjustments. They say, but don't leave the fundamentals. We need for you to do all the fundamentals, and we need for you to do all this new stuff. I'm here to tell you, buddies, our cup is full. Okay. Our cup is full. We can't just keep adding it on top. There's a limitation of what we really have to do here. So what we have to do is use the emerging technologies to help teach the fundamentals. Okay, we got to think about the way we teach the fundamentals has got to change because the firms are changing it. The way they're educating the students when they come on and train them is different than the way they used to even 5 years ago or less than that. So we need to use the emerging technology to help train our individuals. So again, an example of that would be a teacher research class, research into professional standards, not academic research. And so leveraging AI to be able to do the research to come up with the answers in the professional standards. So yes, we're still teaching them professional standards and how to find that, but we're using AI to do that. And at the same time, we're teaching them ethical responsibilities related to the use of AI. And so that's where we're going. It is a moving target. Absolutely a moving target. Back to my first point about the speed of change. So whatever I did this year, guess what? I know I'm not going to do that next year. And that makes it interesting for the students, but it also makes it interesting for me to be able to do that as well.
Nice. I love it. Now, I would say one follow-up question on that is you mentioned about, teaching the ethics around how we use the technology, how we use AI. And I'm very curious as if the speed of AI is changing so fast, like how quickly do you see the training around ethics adapting? Do you feel like our training around ethics is doing a good job or a better job of keeping up with the speed of how we have to evolve how we talk about ethics to really support reliability in the accounting profession?
My answer is going to be, we're probably not doing as much as we should. An analogy I'll make is fraud. Okay. Normally, when we're looking for fraud, we're looking at fraud based on the last fraud we saw. So we're trying to solve the last problem. We're not anticipating the problem we haven't seen yet.
Gotcha.
I would say that's a lot of what we're doing here. Okay. We're teaching ethics based on what we know, but we're not necessarily teaching ethics on where it's going. Okay. And what will be the next iteration or generation of the AI? We don't know what it is, so it's hard for us to anticipate that. But the best we can do, to be totally honest at this point, is look at what current technology does. Again, it's moving pretty quick, and making sure that we are bringing those ethical considerations into. I mean, just think about the business press. How many of the firms have recently been embarrassed because their professionals used AI inappropriately and didn't verify the information before they delivered it? And so this is not only important to academia to make sure our students are actually learning, it's important to prepare them for the expectation as a professional and what's expected in them. And yes, AI will help you, but you as an individual are still responsible for the result. You cannot outsource the responsibility. That is still yours. And getting them to understand that and what they need to do to feel comfortable with that. Mm-hmm. So that at the end of the day, they can't say the dog ate my homework. Okay, that's not where we're
at. I love it. Well, Scott, I want to say thank you so much for coming on. Now, before we wrap up, there's two more things that I want to highlight. NC State has an amazing lifelong learning program. Can you tell the audience about that?
Yeah, great. Thanks for asking. As I tell students all the time, whether you like it or not, you chose a profession where lifelong learning is very important. What we've been talking about today is all this change. So which I think is really the cool thing. When people ask me why I've stayed so long in a profession, I say, because every day I'm learning something. That's what the really cool thing is. And so we have this lifelong learning series that you've actually participated in before. Thanks for that. And of which we help our alumni and their friends, we call alumni and friends, keep up to date with what's going on. And so we bring people in, such as you, to hear from people they don't normally hear from, to expand. So we're not talking about debits and credits and the tax code. That's not what we're talking about. People can get that anywhere, okay? But we're bringing unique people to our alumni to help them think differently and maybe to anticipate what is coming down the road that they're not really thinking about. Because we can always get kind of succumb to the everyday business press. Okay, so we push that out. And so every September, this year, it's going to be the last Friday in September, we will have a full day. And yes, it's lifelong learning. And because people in the accounting profession need to keep CPE, it's actually CPE eligible for that reason to that as well. But we really like that. And it really helps us keep connected with our alumni. Here at the MAC program, we say you're family for life. And so it's just another way to keep up with our family.
Awesome. I love it. And I'm very happy to see that program has been continuing to grow over the years. So if people are interested in learning more about, the NC State program, where should they go or getting in touch with you? Like, where's some good places for them to go online?
Well, they can always go to our website. Okay, we obviously the MAC programs. You go to the NC State website and put in MAC program. We're the only one, so we will pop right up on that area. My contact information is there, easily contacted, and there's actually a form if you're interested in something about the program. You can fill that out, and we'll get in contact with you. But all of our staff that are in our program area, as well as my contact information is on the website. Feel free to wander around in there. We have a whole series focused on our alumni and friends that you can go on. We've actually videoed some of our summer series that we do. We actually have recorded that, and they're out there available that people can look at as well in that area. So the best way is to visit our website, and all of our contact information is out there. We'd be glad to follow up with anybody.
Well, Scott, thank you so much for being an amazing guest. Thank you for coming on, and all of the best and continued success for an amazing program.
Thank you very much, Terrell. It's nice catching up with you again, and I hope we can, again, get you back on campus. We'd love to do that, but thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us today on the Unique CPA. You can find the show notes for today's episode and book Randy for your next keynote or event at randycrabtree.com. Remember to subscribe and leave a 5-star rating on your favorite podcasting app. And join us next time for more expertise and insights on the Unique CPA.
Professionalproductions.net